art is whatever the hell I say it is. It's expression, it's empathy, it's a human thing. And design is a path with a purpose. You're going from point A to point B. You're either achieving this like low, mediocre, or high level of execution, a function. It's function, that's all it is. A designer that I look up to was like talking about social media. And he was like, remember that you are seeing people's highlight reels and not their behind the scenes. You're seeing like all the good and none of the bad. Yeah. So don't let that discourage you or anything like that. And I just held on to that for a really long time. If you're young and you're trying to get out there, actually age doesn't even matter, but if you're just trying to get out there and you're starting your career, unfortunately, the age-old saying, it's all about who you know, is real. And even just sitting here like thinking about that, I can't think of a job or a project that I've worked on that it wasn't through someone that I knew.
Hey everybody, this is Renato and this is Pieces Fire. And with me I have Cole Keeton, a creative director and a friend of mine for the past 16 years maybe. My oldest is 17.
Something like that.
So I met you around that time.
Yeah.
He was really young. And I'm really happy to be interviewing him. Something you don't know is you're probably one of the first creative directors that I ever met.
Really?
In my life, yes. And the
you
concept.
Get out more.
What's that?
I
need to get out more, yeah. But that was, I was a photographer for a long time, right? And we worked on this project for Missile, for the band. And it was like the concept of creative director. Like I've never really, I knew what it was, but I never really kind of like knew anybody that did that.
I was kind of managing those dudes.
You kind of did a lot of things, yeah.
Creative direction wise, I might have had a little influence, but those guys are like maybe some of the most creative people I know. And I would say most of that was all of them. So
yeah, no, but after that, I of course continue to follow you and all the things that you've done. I've asked you questions and you've been kind enough to answer. And I would just kind of like, before I go into that, I can expand on that a little bit. But why don't you tell me a little bit of your story, who you are, where you're from, and kind of what led you to where we are now?
Oh man, I'm gonna try to make it really short. This is really hard for me.
Give me some snackable stuff, man.
I think, yeah. So born and raised, I kind of grew up all over the world. My parents were missionaries.
Okay.
Grew up in a bunch of different countries. But born and raised in Texas. Went to school here. Went to the Art Institute. Got my BFA there. Went on to North Texas for my MBA and. Popped out of there, went to the Richards Group, Tracy Locke, Publicis Hawkeye, just kind of like made
your rounds
circuit of Dallas agencies. 2008 was not as, it was hard on everybody. So that was a hard time to find a job. Ended up, my buddy was in this metal band. He was the best man at my wedding and was like, have you ever tour managed before? Like a monkey could do it. Like just do merch, sound scans, like keep track of everything, which a monkey could not tour manage. That is not true. Went out, was supposed to go out for a summer, ended up being a little bit longer than that, but kind of got back into advertising again. I would say I was been in advertising for about 20 years, minus this, a 1-year break that I went to an architecture firm called Gensler.
Okay.
Was the global creative director over brand. And that's really just kind of how like a brand flows through a piece of architecture. It's not just a logo on a wall. It's all kinds of crazy things. And that kind of happened around the same time that me and my wife were doing this project called Sweet Tooth Hotel. And that going on at that time, as well as working in, spatial design really got me into immersive experiences. And so 2020 rolled around, started a little studio with 2 friends of mine called Grackle, and it was all immersive experience, which was like the worst time in American history to start an experiential studio, probably the least needed commodity in the world. And then, went from there to kind of the digital version of experiential, which was UX UI, and worked for one of the biggest jewelry conglomerates in the world. That landed me in Silicon Valley. and then ended up starting my own studio called Wavy, WVVY. Yeah. And then all kinds of fun stuff from like branding and identity to experiential to, yeah, all kinds of fun stuff.
That's great.
So
yeah,
that was about as short as I could.
Right. I mean, I think you did a pretty good job at it. So branding and experience. I mean, I've been getting into that for the past probably 6 years. All right. And it's fascinating, man. But I think with you, it's always been, my perspective was that you had the creative side down, but you also had the business side, which as of late I've been getting a lot into, and that's actually what's opened a lot of doors.
Mm-hmm.
Learning how to talk to business people and telling them what ROI is or how they're gonna get money out of all these crazy things. How did you learn about that?
I'm still learning about it. So I think that one of the things that happens with LinkedIn or social, I'm just saying these things because you're like, well, that's what I saw. You know, I went to a design conference in Barcelona in like 2014 or 15. Oh, it was 2015 because it was called OFF.
Okay.
OFFF. And the tagline for that year was finally fucking 15. And I will never forget a designer that I look up to was like talking about social media. And he was like, you know, remember that you are seeing people's highlight reels and not their behind the scenes. You're seeing like all the good and none of the bad.
Yeah.
So don't let that discourage you or anything like that. And I just held on to that for a really long time. And I only bring that up because my business struggled. All of our business, like me and my wife previously had several other businesses, and we were fortunate enough to sell a couple of them. But it was kind of like right time, right place, or wrong time, wrong place. Because we, you know, won't get into the weeds of that, but like, you just kind of see the highlights of things. So I think throughout the years, just like learning has been super crucial, especially the business side, to surviving, I guess. And as far as like how I convince people to work with me or work with my team is, I guess, simply by, you know, and it's easier, I think, for people who have been around a little bit longer because you have this book or this website or this, you know, body of work that you can show. It's like, hey, I did this, and they're like, okay, cool, can you do that for me? Sweet, here we go. But as far as like specific projects and specific asks, the way that I kind of work ROI into it is, this is an investment, and this is the first part. Like people that you're putting, you know, a lot of companies that I've worked for or brands that I've worked with have been just starting out. So it's like, hey, you know, investors are, yeah, sure, they're looking at a product and looking at a narrative or listening for a narrative, but they're also looking for, you know, they can easily and visibly get behind an identity before they get behind, you know, the narrative of what the company is. So I usually help people kind of build an identity or build a brand for them to go take off and launch. Because a lot of times, you know, picture this doesn't work as well as you would want it to. But I don't know. And when it comes to explaining, you know, what we're going to do, I think a huge part of it, which was like an old partner of mine and someone that I used to work for, showed me this framework, and it was a lot harder at the time. But now that we have AI, it's a lot easier. But he coined it the filter sentence. And I use it for everything.
Oh yeah?
I use it for everything.
Can you tell?
Absolutely. I'm happy to share it because it was bestowed upon me. So back in the day, whether it was with an agency or a client, you could get a 10-page brief. You could get like, you know, 5 core tenets of this brand. You know, and we're talking about working on an idea or a concept or building something. At the time, it was like a stunt, like a PR stunt or a campaign that's going to last for months. And it would be like whatever the client gives you, whatever strategic planning gives you, whatever you come up with the client, basically you have to distill all that down into a sentence that checks off every single box in the brief. Now we have ChatGPT that we can just plug in the brief and be like, hey, give me a sentence that checks off these things. And whether it was you or your team, it's like every idea had to work with that sentence. And if it didn't, it was just a really easy, non-personal way to weed out bad ideas or ideas that wouldn't work. And sometimes those bad ideas just they weren't really necessarily bad ideas. They were just like ideas that weren't as conceptually strong as the other ones, and they were conceptually strong because they catered to all the little, boxes we were trying to check in those things. So I think that whenever you present, whether it's like, this is what we're going to do, or this is the process that we're going to go through. You said you wanted to talk about processes and frameworks and stuff like that. Whenever you present it in that way and they can kind of see it almost before it's built, I don't want to say always, obviously not always, but in my experience, it's instilled a lot of trust. And I think that trust comes from like them seeing or hearing something that you're laying out, and something inside of them is like, oh, they get me. You get me. You understand me. You understand what I want. And it's really like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that complex, but, or easy. I guess it's easier said than done, but, just using that framework, it's never really steered me wrong.
It's funny that you say that. Now I understand it. If you told me this 10 years ago, I would have been like, what, how, but
it took time. 10 years ago.
It's like, I'm telling you, like, I was just having a conversation with a client today, and they were so like getting them in a meeting and trying to find order on all of the ideas and and try to organize that into some sort of a framework or a timeline. I think that's the hardest part.
Yeah.
The design, for me, it's just putting paint on the car. I mean, of course.
No.
In
totally
general
agree.
lines. But it's the organizational part of, like you said, presented in a way that it's clear. There's a timeline. We start here, then we do this, then we do this, and then we get this.
Yeah. I think working with artists has really shown me a lot of things. And that thing is, and I hope that people are going to debate this in the comments. Please debate this in the comments. Is that art and design, everyone kind of like lumps them in the same, category.
Yeah.
And I think, art is whatever the hell I say it is. It's expression, it's empathy, it's a human thing. And design is a path with a purpose. You're going from point A to point B. You're either achieving this like low, mediocre, or high level of execution, a function. It's function. That's all it is. And I think that, that's what attracted me to design as a older, that came out wrong. As a young artist that moved away from creating art and into design, was like, I can judge this.
Yeah.
I can judge and see if this is working or if it's not working. And young me, and still me to this day, is like, I'm a sensitive individual. So like, I never had like this thick skin to where, I was signing up for people to, judge my art. I didn't want that. I wanted people to see what I did. And I don't mean the masses. That's great that people have seen it. But I mean, my colleagues and the people that I work with, was like, we made this thing and it's working.
Yeah.
Which is several agencies that I was with, all had a huge emphasis in department on analytics. So I think really like everything that I've done from a design perspective, like rests on the backbone of like insight-driven analytics. And that's another thing that you can kind of bring into the conversation with your potential client or your existing client.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that's also kind of a funny thing about data. Sometimes like if you have an agenda, you can kind of bend data to say whatever
to benefit you.
Yeah. But sorry if I was going off topic. But
no, I mean, that makes a lot of sense, because one of the things that I realized of all the years that I've been doing projects for clients, either photo or video, is that I started seeing a pattern where they didn't know how to use my product. They didn't know how to put the assets that I gave them to good work. That led me to strategy. I was like, okay, why am I doing this? Who am I doing this for?
Sure.
What is this bringing back to me? What is my goal? People don't think about that.
No.
You know, it's like, oh, this is pretty, shiny, artsy, cool. And then what? So it's funny that you say it, and you're not the first designer that's told me that. I don't know if you know Bobby Serta. I used to work with him at the Cowboys.
I know the name.
Okay. Well, I interviewed him. That was my first episode.
Okay.
And he said the same thing you said about graphic design. That it's not art necessarily. It's more like it serves a purpose.
Yeah, I mean,
You know?
there's a art or aesthetic
Artistic,
that
yeah,
you
of
lay
course.
on that layer on top of the function.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said it, I thought the best way, which was like it's paint on a car.
Yeah.
It's pretty paint, and that color serves a purpose, and
Mhm.
it has an intention. And you know, red's going to make people feel a certain way, and black's going to make people feel a certain way.
Dude.
There's a lot of psychology behind it, but
Yeah.
at the same time, people are buying or driving or riding in that car for a purpose, and it's to get somewhere.
Yeah.
So
No, that's great. I mean, it's I don't know if this is more of a mature or like ex artist, but I don't consider myself an ex artist. I still consider myself an artist because I love what I do and I love to express myself. But yeah, man, like and this is something that a lot of people that have made comments on anything that I posted is, man, I want to do this, but I'm an artist and I don't want to do it for the man. You know, like you ultimately want to get paid for what you do. So you're serving an audience.
Yeah.
And it's as simple as that, but it's, dude, okay, 15 years ago, you asked me that, and I was like, no, man, I'm doing my art, man. I'm just doing my thing. And then I didn't have money to pay for bills. And then I had to work a server job or bartending.
Starving artist.
Artist. But, what would you say? Like, I don't necessarily work with many artists as of late. I work more with like what I like to call challenger brands, like Ilegal Mezcal. They're probably my favorite brand to work with. They're so real, so it's community oriented. They're from New York.
Cool.
And I've been working with them for years. I actually interviewed 2 people from there when I went to South by. But it's so clear for them, that they do it because they love it and it feels artsy. But it's paying the bills. They just got sold to Bacardi, man.
Congrats to them.
That's what I'm saying. So, what would you say?
Diageo pays well.
What's that?
I said Diageo pays well.
I'm telling you,
most of the time.
Right. What would you say to people out there that like have the talent, are very talented individuals, but they can't seem to find gigs or sell their work?
Wow, that's a difficult question.
Right.
I tell a lot of people starting out, I'm like, there's a certain type of work that you want to do. There's the reason why you got into this. You want to do a certain type of work. And if that person happens to be, and they usually are artists, like people that go to school for design or art, they're usually artists before. You want to be hired, you want to be picked up for your lens, for how you see the world and your point of view. So I think for me, like what I would tell people starting out, or really anybody, is like, if you have a body of work, I've lost track of like all the work that I've done for AT&T. Like it didn't matter what agency I was at. Love you, AT&T. Didn't matter what agency I was at. If I was in Texas, I was working on AT&T.
I've done AT&T too.
And so I probably worked on AT&T for like 16 years. And I think I have one AT&T piece in my book. Really? One. And this is just, leading up to say, whatever body of work that you have, go through and pick the things that represent you, and go through and pick the things that you want someone to see online and go, I'm hiring them for that. So whenever people tap you or, reach out to you, go, hey, we want to talk to you for this job or that job or this project or that project, they're expecting you to create something like this. Now, if you haven't had the opportunity to make, stuff for Nike or whoever, I say Nike because it's like one of my favorite brands, as I'm wearing my Sambas. But then just make it.
Yeah.
Like make some spec work, make your version of what you think it should be, and put it on social.
Yeah.
Put it on your site. Like things have changed since I was, coming out of college, or even like in my 20s or 30s. Like it just, I don't know, like just with technology and AI, and I don't know, I'm like beating the drum that everybody's beating, but it's like it used to be, even leading up to this is like, what's going to happen next year?
Yeah.
And then like last year and the year before, it was like, what's going to happen next month?
Yeah.
And now it's like, it's not even like what happened last week. It's like, what happened yesterday? Like whatever
Few minutes
you were,
ago, bro.
yeah, whatever you were studying and just became like completely fluent in,
Mm-hmm.
it's now obsolete.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think nowadays, like it's social is a good in
Yeah.
to get your work out there. But as far as like actually talking to people
Mm-hmm.
to get a job, every city has like we have Dallas Meetup, we have DSVC, we have Creative Mornings here in Dallas.
Yeah.
But every city has a way to network and mingle, and like I'm not a mingler and a networker like people think.
Dude,
that
I think you're
people
much better than me,
no,
though.
I'll just tell you, like I'm definitely a extrovert,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. It's like every year that you get older, you're just like, oh, maybe I don't want to go out to this thing.
Yeah, no,
maybe I don't want to be around, shoulder to shoulder with people.
Yeah.
So, things like that change. But if you're young and you're trying to get out there, actually age doesn't even matter. But if you're just trying to get out there and you're starting your career, unfortunately, the age-old saying it's all about who you know
Mm-hmm.
is real. And even just sitting here and like thinking about that, I can't think of a job or a project that I've worked on that it wasn't through someone that I knew.
Yeah, those are the best ones.
Like those are the only ones for me.
Wow. Yeah.
I've never cold applied, I guess no, not even that one. I've never cold applied somewhere, like sent my resume to, I'm on LinkedIn and send my resume somewhere and somebody calls me. That's never happened.
Yeah.
I've put a lot of work into some efforts like that, like sending, a deck
Mm-hmm.
with my resume, like, hey, this is what I think you should do. Just going above and beyond, and like nothing. But if I do that same thing through somebody I know, it's like I get an email or a phone call the next day. Because it's just like, if you're going through your network, it's like whoever you're talking to, the person, however they're connected, they trust. There's just a lot more trust involved. It's like, well, so-and-so said Renato's great. Let's talk to him.
Yeah. I love when people come to me like that. And it's like, they just say, whatever you want, whatever you think.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. That's the lens and the point of view that they're bringing you in for. It's like, even though we're talking about design, that's why all the different artists that I've worked with and artists that I've met, that's exactly why they're hired. They're like, someone sees their mural or, whatever out there, and they're like, oh, I want that.
Yeah.
There's no like, it's usually just like, the artist is going, well, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
I'm going to do my own thing because that's what you're hiring me for. But like, what's this for? That kind of thing. And I don't know. I think it's different with art and design, but sorry, everyone. Typical ADD creative here, talking about 8 different things.
So you're talking about something that I spoke to. His name is Agustin. Dummy Fresh. Do you know Dummy Fresh?
Who is it?
Agustin Chavez.
I don't.
With his hats.
Sounds cool.
It's a D, and he's done work with the Mavs. He's done work with Trinity.
Cool.
With a whole bunch of people, and he's an artist. He does a whole bunch of different things. That's actually our previous episode. And dude, just like that, people called him, oh, you're the hat guy. Okay, yeah, I want a hat guy like this. Or they wanted him for a shirt, and then he eventually brought a deck, and it's like, but I can also do this. And he made it Mavs. And I'm like, ooh, love that. Love the stitching. Yeah. What else can you do?
Yeah.
So that, man.
Dude, that always, I don't know why, but that always just like a nice little deck. Just like,
yeah.
I remember one time I was working with like one of my favorite artists in Dallas. His name's Hatiel Flores.
Oh, Hatiel. Yeah, I love Hatiel, man.
He's just, I don't see him that often because he's always busy. But like, he's like one of those people that it just picks right back up from the last time you talked to him. But I remember we were working on a project together, and I was just like, hey, we're going to be doing this and this and this for this client, because I brought him in because I was like, I love this stuff. And he put together this deck, and it was so sick.
Really?
And I was like, I'm never not doing a project without presenting a deck like this. Yeah, because people have such a hard time managing the expectation of clients or their partners or people that they're working with. And whenever you bring this person to come in and do this one thing, and they go above and beyond and do this whole other thing, you're like, it makes everyone happy.
Yeah.
It makes the person who did it proud. It makes the person who they're doing it for just like stoked that they make the right decision of bringing this person on to do this project. But man, you're gonna have to really edit this down.
No, this is great,
like,
man.
this is not a
this is really
on
good.
The importance of decks.
That's good. These people want to know, how do you go the extra mile to get that client? And I think just by doing that, have you read? Man, I forget about this name. I had it whenever you were talking. It's about customer service, but it's Gudera. It's a yellow book. Have you seen the Bear?
No.
Okay, well.
Oh yeah, I've seen the show The Bear.
Okay, The Bear.
Yeah.
There's this one episode when on first season where the guy, I can't remember his name, cousin, he goes into the best restaurant in town, and he's a sandwich guy.
Yeah.
And then he's learning how everything has a purpose and how they go the extra mile for that customer service. They obsess over that, and that makes people feel special. And the feeling of feeling special and heard and seen can get you that job,
bro. Yeah, we can do a whole podcast on like what I call the 3 pillars of humanity, which is being seen, valued, and heard.
Okay.
And like, it doesn't matter who it is, whether it's the client or whoever. Like, if someone is feeling, and some people switch out valued with loved.
Yeah.
But like seen, valued, loved. Like whenever me and my partners were doing that studio back in 2020, like there was no work. Like we were doing work, we pivoted a little bit, and we did some experience audits, and we did some side projects, but the big, huge immersive experiences that we wanted to do were not happening in 2020. So we had a lot of time on our hands, and we read thousands of years of human history. And well, we were just like, we're this human-based experience studio, so we need to understand how why humans do what they do. And I was like, my minor is in psychology, we got this. And come to find out, I knew nothing.
Yeah.
And I think it all goes back to that, whether it's a service or, I mean, it can literally be anything, but as long as it's making a person who's experiencing it feel seen, valued, or heard, it's a win.
It's absolutely a win. And no, this is great. I mean, I know we have to do this again, bro. Like I'm telling you, and we have to have a little bit more time. I think next time probably we'll bring a bottle of wine or something like that.
Okay.
And then just have because there's a lot to unpack.
100%. This is part 1.
Yeah, absolutely. This is part 1 or like episode whatever 0.5, and then the next one's coming. But I appreciate it, Cole. Thank you for your time, and we'll definitely have to do this again. And we'll see you in the next one.
Okay, done.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Thanks, man.
What time is it?
6:40.